I think the biggest problem is that we all realize that we have to change something, but it is very hard to. Where do you start? And there's still the easy way out. So what is going wrong? I think legislation, the fact that taxes on labor is very high, and on materials very low. I think the system is wrong in this way, but it's also very big. So where do you start?
Welcome to Circular Pioneers, the podcast where we explore the innovative minds shaping the circular economy. I'm Janina Nieper, your host on this journey. Each episode, we sit down with pioneering individuals, sharing their personal whys, challenges, and insights for creating a regenerative future. Today, we zoom in on the interior design industry, an industry that is known to send 80 to 90% to landfill. According to the European Federation of Furniture Manufacturers, only 10% of furniture waste is recycled. Even though even recycling doesn't have a good reputation, even less is reused. How can we thus change the interior world from within? How should we design and what tools exist already? And this brings us to our next guest, Marije Remigius, someone that in Amsterdam would be known as a circular maker. Marije transforms the interior world from within. You don't only talk about going circular, you also make it happen. With her 25 years of experience at Fiction Factory, a local makerspace in Amsterdam that also founded a Wikkelhuis, that led her to found Circu Leren, Matter and Jutplaats. Thus a real powerhouse within the interior world, and a very warm welcome.
Yes, hello, Janina.
To paint a picture for the listener, where are we here?
Well, you're here in the office of Circu Leren and Intermatter, and we're here at the Treehouse. And Treehouse is a broedplaats in the north of Amsterdam at NDSM-terrein. And here is, it's like all makers here, but it's artists, music makers, but also producers of circular products as well.
So what can we see here in the background?
Yeah, so one of the sort of like tools that I have developed is Intermatter, and this is a tool to where I classified materials based on sustainability, so you can choose them much more easier within your interior designs.
Oh, nice. And as already mentioned, you have 25 years of experience as a maker. What did you? What was your journey and what was your aha moment that you were like, there's something going wrong in the industry and I need to change this?
Yeah, so before this 25 years of experience of making, of course, I think we're all born as makers. We create. And if it's cooking or painting your house or whatever, we know how to create stuff and do stuff. But so I studied the vocational training at the Houten Meubileringscollege here in Amsterdam. So I became a cabinet maker, furniture maker. And and for this you learn to use wood and turn it into something really practical and tangible. And and wood is a material that sort of like is not always listening to what I want. You also have to listen to what the wood wants to produce. And so when I started my profession also at Fiction Factory, I've been making very temporarily interiors. And this is really what I like, because I like to be challenged always into new stuff. So we did a lot of theaters and events, and it was, we really had to think outside of the box. And 5 years ago, I sort of, I took a year off, and there I did, in this year I did research at the Rijksmuseum to circular exhibition building, because it's in this temporarily world that we produce interiors. I think most of the stuff that I made was thrown away. And there, in one of the towers of the museum, I sort of like, it really hit me doing this research that I sort of like, hey, you know what? Actually, I haven't been producing furniture, but I have been producing very beautiful waste. So, and this sort of like, this feeling that I then had of sort of disappointment, but also that it really kicked in very hard, made me, of course we need to save the world, but that sounded really big. I think I really wanted to save the next makers in having this same realization that they and that they can do better. So this is my mission.
Beautiful. Yeah. And it also explains the journey really well. And I think any designer, any architect can also really identify with this story because as we are all creating waste.
Yes. Yes.
So what do you also see currently going wrong, except of producing waste? Is there anything else in the industry that you say that we're currently doing wrong?
Wow, that we're currently doing wrong. Well, I think the biggest problem is that we all realize that we have to change something, but it is very hard to. Where do you start? And there's still the easy way out. So what is going wrong? I think legislation, the fact that taxes on labor is very high and on materials very low. So it's still like to change the whole system. I think the system is wrong in this way, but it's also very big. So where do you start?
Yeah, no, fully understood. And you also you believe in the X-tax. So you believe the X-tax means to de-tax labor and to tax raw materials, and thus this creates also more momentum for repair, because currently repair is still expensive because we need to use local labor.
Yeah, it's still cheaper to buy something new than to repair it.
Yeah, and also import it from far away, unfortunately. Yeah. So what's the impact you're envisioning for the interior industry?
Well, I really want to that everything is going to build in a circular way, so that producers take responsibility, but also users take the responsibility of using it longer, and go for repair or even reuse in many ways. So yeah.
So this led you to then found Circu Leren, which is a consultancy for interior designers to basically teach them principles around circular design. What are those? Because I already know you, so I know that you always say round is not circular. Can you tell a bit more about that?
Well, I think it always helps that you have some sort of like principles or sort of guidelines that you can help or use in a very simple way. And I like things to be simple because then you can easily use it in your work. So the principles that I have is there are 4 of them, and 3 of them I learned from another company as well during the work that I did. But the round is circular. Sort of fits in the other ones, but I came with this myself because as a cabinet maker, and I have to say this in Dutch. I think, do I have to say? Well, as a cabinet maker, making things round is shit. So rond is stront. This is what we say in Dutch. And actually, all materials are straight or square. So if you make something round, you already know there will be waste all around it. And if something has been bended round in steel, for example, it's very hard to make it straight again. So so round is not circular.
And what are the other 3 principles?
The other 3 principles is less is more. So take a look at the sizes of materials, but also reduce something. To not build is maybe the most sustainable thing to do. Design for disassembly, and so don't use glues or make it an opportunity that you can take it apart again. So I'm okay with using screws, although you damage the wood a bit maybe or other materials. And so at least you can make a plan to take it apart. And so less is more. Design for disassembly. Use good materials. Yes.
I think that's
so. If you're going to build something, use good materials, and that's why I said why I developed into Matter is because it's very hard to define what is good.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think that's also something that we have to make easier for designers and for architects to choose, because we cannot each time in the design process walk through all the mechanism of identifying good materials.
Yeah.
Fully agreed. Do you think clients, they're also always eager to walk the journey along, or do you see also challenges when clients approach you wanting to be circular? Is that easy?
Well, you always see that there are some front runners in companies. So it's the designers within the design company, but also for their clients. And but then, of course, it's like there's so many stakeholders involved in developing interiors for the B2B industry, at least, and that you have to take them all with you on this journey. And then you have to take so many things into account. The feeling that you have in your design when you walk into an interior, but then also, of course, the money, and then now you also have to keep in mind sustainability. So so the difficulties is that indeed it is very big, but I really try to make it small and then sort of like take one goal and start from there and start learning. Yeah.
So is it more expensive to build or design circular?
Well, if you build nothing, it doesn't cost anything. Right? And that's the most sustainable thing.
True.
Yes. And but the thing is that it is in some ways. So this is why I'm also about the X-tags, right? Because it takes a lot of more time to find used materials, for example, or to do research about how sustainable materials are, or to make them that they are designed for disassembly, that you can take them apart. So it does take more effort, but I think that's always in the case of learning something new, right? It's even with a new language. You have to learn what kind of words you have to use in other things. And this is the same for circular economy. You have to learn, but once you know it, you can easily adjust it because it still fits in the same system.
Yeah. So it also shows a bit the pioneers, they're paving the way to make it easier to go circular.
Yeah.
And I think that's also one of the reasons that you created Intermatter. What we also see here in the background, the materials that you label.
Yeah.
Because in the end, we are always... there's always this confusing step in the design process where you have to make a choice. And then, of course, it's easier when we have a clear guideline of what's a good material.
Yeah.
What's a good material?
Yeah. So at this moment, there are no real good recipes for this. So, and of course, you all know what sustainability means for you. It means something different for me. But within materials, you can do life cycle assessment. So you can really calculate all the impact that a material has from the beginning, like from mining the steel somewhere and then producing the real steel sheets to, transporting them wherever you wanted to have it. And but all these calculations takes time, and there are different measurement systems. So I sort of like made it a bit more simple. And the easiest way to look at it is with a color code. So the good materials are blue, and do not use the materials are gray.
Yeah.
And in between there are other colors.
So simplifying LCA. So a life cycle assessment is looking at the impact of a material from its origin, from growing the material.
Yeah.
So a tree from Chile would start in Chile.
Yeah.
From the transport to then the manufacturing, where it's manufactured.
Yeah.
And then you look at with Intermatter and the scale from gray to blue, is it only LCA that you look at, or are there also any other factors that are taken into account?
Well, so we are not calculating it all by ourselves. So we are using open source software from the TU Delft, and so they did a lot of research for us.
Edemat.
Yes, Edemat. So that's really good, and but they also you can sort of like extract different numbers out of this. So this is also on CO2 level that you hear a lot about in the newspapers as well. But Edemat is really also focused on the eco cost. So what does it really do on the complete environment? Because CO2 is just one little part. And this is something that I really like. So this is also what I also show in the material library that you can see online, that I also show the eco cost. But at this moment we're measuring with CO2, so I also show this.
Yeah, no, understandable. What's surprisingly blue on your scale? So blue was good.
Blue is good, yeah. And so surprisingly blue is, this is a discussion that I also had with the professor of the open source software Edemat, Joost Vochtlander, that I had, is how do you measure used materials? And and this is sort of like now other so like transport could create more impact on it. But I also said to Joost, but I sometimes just use a material for 3 days, so then I need to recalculate it. It's sort of like when you buy a house, you have 30 years to afschrijving. I don't know how the word is.
Count them off over the years.
Yeah. And then I said, maybe we should just also push it a little bit further and say, if it's a used material, it's 0, because you didn't have all the impact before. Unless you get the used material from China again. Let's not do that. But the local materials.
Local used material.
Yeah.
So that's for you. Any local used material is blue.
Yes.
What's a bright?
Yes.
And of course, wood usually also ranks quite high on the
I think most of the wood materials are already blue because when the tree grows, it takes CO2 and it captures it. So that's in sort of no-brainer as well. But so for me, it's of course we have the simple color code system, but from there you can also calculate complete projects on material level, and then you make it sort of a bit of a nerdy thing out of it.
That's nerdy is always good in my
Yes.
And what is surprisingly grey?
What's surprisingly grey? Yeah. So one of the materials that I have here is like a composite material. It's like a plastic material that is indeed from the aluminium industry, so a leftover part of it. But it creates amazingly a lot of impact. But as you can see here, it's like a 9mm material. It's very durable. It lasts very long. But producing this is
a high LT.
Yeah.
So we have, on the other hand, we have composite materials.
Yeah.
Not all composite materials, but some.
Yeah.
Especially when something...
Well, and it also depends on how much of you are using. So we are calculating everything on square meter level, so that you can, if you're just using like one thin layer of paint, for example, then it's not so much damageable if you do 9mm thick of paint.
Okay.
And that's also the reason why we do this on square meters, because then you can really compare them.
Yeah. Okay, so, and what's your favorite material? In general,
what's my favorite material?
Because mine is hair, but also for the reason that you can use it for cleaning up oil spills in the ocean.
Hair has. I think a lot of materials also have. They already show us, right, what they are capable of. And hair, of course, you have to wash your hair because it gets greasy, and that's really sort of like the benefit of hair, that it really attracts grease. So when you have an oil stain in the ocean, then put hair in there, and then it sucks it up. And but what I really like is the now sort of the bio-based or the biodegradable materials that are also produced locally from agricultural waste, and and what so like also spin-off companies are doing now to make this scalable and usable for the interior industry.
And these you also have here samples that you can show.
So this is for example from Rick. He's then not from Amsterdam but from the south of Netherlands, and he is making this from hennep leftovers. But this is then from Samira Boon. She's doing this. She's from Amsterdam.
Nice. Nice. So for any designers listening, watch out with materials that carry a high LCA, and look at the square meter. What is the square meter that you're using? Can you, for instance, reduce the amount of material that you're using from high impact materials, and then use local reuse materials, ideally, and if not, then biodegradable ones, or ones with a low LCA.
But even if you use still like the best materials, if you glue them all together, you cannot reuse them. So do please
design
make sure
design
for disassembly.
And that's especially for the interior design industry, where we are able to change. We were changing the interior every 5-6 years sometimes. Nice. Okay, reusing materials. That also brings us to something that you also co-founded.
Yes.
I think together with Brandwacht Einmeier and Fiction Factory, Jutplaats. What is Jutplaats?
Jutplaats is, sometimes I have to explain the name a little bit, because Jut is like the man. You have this picture of the man with his bicycle next to the beach, then harvesting all the materials that come from the sea, and pieces of wood or whatever, or maybe sometimes containers with toys or something. But so this is why I call it Jutplaats, because you have to harvest materials. And I think so at this moment, to really build circular interiors, it's you have to create a new system and the new systems around it. So Intermatter is one part of it, but also Jutplaats. If you are designing and building design for disassembly, then what and who is going to do it with it? So, and then you have to show these products or materials that are then coming back again. And so this is like a simple marketplace. And and here we share materials, but and in this Jutplaats, I try to push to show already the materials while they're still in use.
So it's also easy to imagine what you can use them for.
Yeah.
So are there any challenges that you run up against with reusing materials? Because I can also imagine that there might be a high level of uncertainty.
Yes, well, of course, this is what we want to prevent with Jutplaats, right? You can see that it's coming, and for some of the projects that I do, I know exactly when it will be available. But the biggest challenge in here is like ego. Ego of designers and also the clients, because they want something unique, and but it's also to use something that another designer designed, right? So that's a bit of a challenge, but also the ego of, hey, who's going to use my design for what? So there's some intellectual property issues there as well, and indeed also from the client point of view. Can we put on Jutplaats, for example, that the materials are coming from this big brand and they are throwing it away or something? So there are still some issues on these things to define and make agreements on this before you start.
Yeah. So also a bit of PR, that there's this awareness of not wanting to send a bad message by uploading it on the platform.
Yeah.
So how do you overcome those challenges currently? Making good agreements, is that it? Or
well, I think so. So we are now sort of like playing with it and learn on the go, and because this is what I like as a maker, just do it and just build it and see what happens. But also to I think I want to show the positive impact that we are creating, and this is also what Matter helps to see how much CO2 you are reducing, and then this is of course what everyone likes, is sort of like, hey, and make this tangible, and not saying, hey, this company is throwing away their waste. No, they are reusing it, and then by whom, maybe hopefully by themselves, that would be the best thing. But and that they create an impact with this. Yeah.
And speaking about throwing away, is there also a surprising success story that with the things that you did, or things where you saw, oh wow, the industry is changing and we are slowly adapting?
Well, the funny thing is that with setting up Jutplaats, for example, one of the museums that I work for a lot is I put one of their exhibitions, it's still in use. It was just opened. I put it on Jutplaats just to showcase, hey, so this is what we like, right? So the beautiful pictures, but also including the engineering drawings, so builders could actually see the sizes and how it was constructed. And then we also put prices on it, and just sort of like Marktplaats prices. We also have to sell it easily, and then the museum was like, hey, but now it looks nice, and now it's sort of like became really sort of like valuable for them as well. Not just because of the money, maybe also a little bit, of course, because now it sort of like created value to have it all as a package together, and now it became also easier for them to reuse it as well. So the next designer could use so it sort of like became a sort of database before this, and then so normally they would throw it away and I would have ownership out of it, and now they kept the ownership. So now I have to create a whole new business model out of it, because now maybe I should stay owner. Maybe I should borrow the materials next time, because now I don't have the materials. I cannot reuse them myself. So this is a sort of, I think you put a new chain in the whole construction of the wheels, and then the wheels start to turn around the other way. Funny.
A mindset shift. Fascinating. So you basically made them realize that there is still beauty in what they were about to throw out.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Nice. Is there any advice that you would give to individuals or organizations on the circular journey if they want to take the first next step? What would you say?
Next step. Well, there's always one step. And it needs to fit you. So if you, for example, someone tells you not to eat cheese anymore, but you're such a cheese lover, then don't start with that one, but start maybe with stop flying. And I think that, but then also to make the agreement with yourself, you know what, I think maybe what I want to say is also play with it. What fits you best, but then also try it out. And so for me, saying, okay, I'm not going to fly for a year, okay, I'm not going to fly for a year. I love, traveling and going abroad and also for my work. But then to really stick to it, it was really interesting. But then it also became very easy because COVID came. But then I sort of like collected immediately 3 years of not flying because we were not allowed. And then to fly after 3 years, sort of like for me, it's really the game started to play because then I had to sort of like give in, right? And then I had to start over again. And I think with these sort of like little commitments for yourself, you start to realize and see things. But start small.
Yeah,
and
beautiful.
you will end big.
Yeah,
I think.
Beautiful. So also not taking yourself too seriously to think now I have to make a change forever.
Yeah.
But really trying. Let's try this for a month, for a year.
Yeah.
See how it fits me. See if I can implement it and take it from there.
Yeah.
On an individual level, but also on in your professional life.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. We already spoke about the X-tax, but if there is one thing that you could change in the current linear system, what would that be?
The X-tax would be one of them, yes. But I think one thing. I think there should be. So the X-tax, of course, is a law that will change. But I think some more regulations on from the government side or from European side would really help. And I think the laws of repair, of course, is now coming into view. So that's really good. And I think this really helps. Not to make it so you can do it or not. No, it needs to become more laws and sort of like
some more European-wide vision of a sustainable future that we all thrive in, and then the regulations that follow through it. Okay. Yeah. So you like CSRD in EPD. Okay. Yeah. All right. Interesting. And what's the last thing that gave you hope?
The last thing that gave me hope. Wow. Gee, that's a hard one. What the last thing that gave me hope? Well, I'm full of hope, but I think to see a lot more going on nowadays, and as a business owner as well, you have your challenges, and I sometimes feel like a preacher, right? But now I see a lot of other companies pop up that I feel also are a bit of competitive to me, and then I'm sort of like, am I going to have enough business out of it? But then I'm thinking, no, so now something is really happening. So nice.
Nice.
That's good.
If you could give a shout out to another circular company, who would that be?
A shout out to another circular company.
Yeah. What's your favorite initiative at the moment? No, it doesn't have to be forever.
A circular initiative. Jeez. There's so many I love so much. But maybe, I'm going to give it to you, darling. Because I really think that to unite in the city of Amsterdam all the circular initiatives, that's really something that we need. Because in Amsterdam, there's absolutely nothing where I can sort of like show myself in a good way. There's no home sort of like for circular economy. So yes, I'm going to give it to you. Maybe that's a bit too easy one. But I think we really, we really need it here. The making environment here in Amsterdam, we are sort of like pushed out of it, and having not really a visible and tangible view on things, how things could be. Also on consumer level, I think this is really needed.
Nice to hear coming from you. I didn't expect this, to be honest, because I think I always feel very small doing the Circular Economy Club Amsterdam. It doesn't feel like a big initiative yet. But if anyone is listening here, how can they get in contact with you? How they can find you if they want to?
Well, if you can find me on LinkedIn, of course, but also on www.circu-leren.nl and intermatter.nl.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So, nice to talk to you.
I have one present for you.
Yeah.
Can I give it to you now? Because I made this during one of the events of Maakplaats here at NDSM. So here is a printing company there as well. So I do it manually. And I had this made for you.
Wow. Thank you.
Yeah.
Wow.
I had it in a bicycle bag, so it's a bit complex.
What is onze staat zonder Janina?
Yes.
Wow.
So.
Thank you. Wauw. Houten mobilierscolleges voor jullie een pakjes.
So if you have finally a physical spot where you can put yourself, then you can put this in front of you.
Dank je. Oh,
you're welcome.
Mooi dat. Ja. Helemaal bedankt.
Ja.
Thank you voor alles. Afronden. Thank you very much, Marije, for everything that you shared. It was very insightful, and we learned a lot today. I think any interior designer, they have should have a good eye on what you're doing and the work that you do, be it in form of advice or in form of looking for materials. And it was a pleasure to have you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot for watching Circular Pioneers. We bring the stories of the pioneers to you, to inspire you and to create action. Support us by subscribing, liking and sharing. If you know someone who can sponsor us, share the link of our Circular Pioneers podcast. Your support is much appreciated.